Welcome back to Life of a Young Professional. My name is Nkosi. Today I've got a very special guest. The queen, the mother, the boss. Okay. So today I'm going to be having a little chat about managing finances. Okay. So the reason why I brought my mom here is because okay, so this is just a young background story. My mom had me at a very young age, right? And
So she says.
no, I know. What's this? She had me at a very young age, and there was so many other things happening in her life at the time. Okay, but just so the story is, I believe from what she has told me that she didn't have much influence around her to basically the person that she has become. So I've always watched her and admired her in the way that she does things, and most importantly her relationship with money, especially from a perspective of umuntu ongakaze abe na anyone to sort of guide you. So yeah, I know it was difficult growing up, and I know like usually those things impact your relationship with money, but I feel like you've done really well. And yeah, so today I'll be asking her a few questions, and I'll be asking you a few questions and just how you manage your money so that we can help other people. So, disclaimer, you're not a financial advisor, so this is not professional financial advice.
It's practical advice.
Yes. It's just stuff that she did. So take what you may and discard what is not applicable to you. It's really okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I guess in your context, we're sharing advice mainly maybe for people that also have kids and have just started in the professional world,
Okay.
or like in general though, but I think those will be the ones that get the most benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get right into the questions. I know you hate it when I look at my phone when I ask questions, but we're here now. Let's look at the camera. How was it sharing your first paycheck with me?
I didn't look at it as sharing the paycheck because there was no life without you.
Okay.
So when I grew up with you. So when I started making money, I started making money with Novondo. So my life was in your life
Revolved around you, basically.
Yes. So and if you say paycheck, it sounds like my first paycheck was just a paycheck, you know. As you know, I started working at the bank while I was still a student as a teller. Okay, so the money that I was getting there it was so little, but it made the day go. It made the week. I was earning a weekly salary or a wage. Yeah, I was earning a wage, and so there was no life without responsibilities, basically. And I think that goes for most of black children.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, whether you have a child or not, there is some expectation that you will look after your siblings at home. You know, so your first paycheck is for everybody, kind of a thing.
It's shared.
It's shared.
Okay, maybe not in the 2020s, you know, because we've got Abazali, Abazkonai.
Because you've termed it black tax. The story is, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Moving on swiftly. Okay. So, how did you manage your finances? When did you start, or what would you say is the first step for a person who has just started working? What do you think they need to do? What's the most important thing?
Okay, I think you guys are fortunate because information is all out there. You can actually Google. I didn't even know there was something called financial management.
Okay.
You know, it's like you're in a salary, you've got responsibilities, you must just make ends meet. But what I learned along the journey, of course, was to draw up a budget. The most important thing, you must draw up a budget because a budget forces you to look at what you earn and what you need to pay for. So you list, practically you take your statement, you list everything that you pay for every month. But do not forget to add the little things, because as people, you go to the shop for bread, you come back with the grocery filled in a packet. And the next week you do the same thing, the next week you do the same thing. So what you
feel
must basically do, No, so what you must basically do is actually be realistic when you're doing your budget. You look at your statement and you say, I actually go to the shop 10 times during the month. There's a 2,000 rand that I spend. So that's how you do a budget. So you do your normal monthly expenditures and you add your habits into your budget.
Entertainment, drinks.
Yes. And what helps with that is when you're starting to manage your finances. You look at these habits, that's where you start cutting. Obviously, you can't cut your rent because you've signed a contract, or you can't cut your bond because you've signed a contract. But there are things that you can cut, and those things, how many times you go to the salon, how many times you do your nails, how many times you fix this, how many times you pick up those habits, and that's where you start. You need to have a very clear view of how much you earn.
Technical difficulties there. Okay, so growing up, you've always preached saving, right? I'm gonna ask how you determine your savings in terms of how much you save, or what you would suggest a young professional saves to start off with from their salary.
The thumbsuck will always be 10% of your salary.
Okay.
So when your salary comes in, the first thing you do, you move your 10% to savings before you even develop habits.
Okay.
You know, like at the beginning when you haven't gotten used to your paycheck.
Let's say now I have gotten used to my paycheck and my savings ability is out the window. How do I get back?
Yes. Remember the first question when I said drop a budget? Look at the income, look at the expenses, look at your habits. The only best way to get back to saving is to go back to your statement, highlight your habits, and then stop behaving like that. For example, I said to you, if you go to the shop 10 times during the month, you start by cutting down to half. For example, if you're spending 200 rand,
going to the shops, maybe buying bulk.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, and then you know that if you were spending 2,000 rand from that habit already, if you cut down going to the shop 5 times, then you know you're going to spend 1,000 rand. Voila, there's 1,000 rand there. If you also, another way of starting saving, if you've I hope not, if you've got accounts, if you add up the money that you pay towards your account, it's ridiculous, you know, and it doesn't really add value to your life. So you need to try and get a way of consolidating. Usually you can just go to your credit card and ask for an increase in your credit card, and then go around and close all your clothing accounts. For example, if you've got 3 clothing accounts and you are paying 300, you are basically paying 900 towards those clothing accounts with the different interest rates. So let's say you've got, in total, these 3 accounts are 10,000 rand, the balance. You go and look for a credit card, you take the 10,000 rand, you go and close the clothing accounts, and then you pay that 900 rand towards your
credit card.
Yeah. And the credit card, you know, you can use the money when you really need it for something that's valuable. Or even the installment on the credit card will not be 900 rand. It might end up being 600 rand, and therefore you are further reducing the 300 rand. Yeah.
I don't know, a part of me would not suggest credit card if a person has got bad spending habits, but I do agree with closing accounts. It's just, it would have to be a decision on how you do that.
Yeah, but the first choice can always be to save the money if you can. But the problem is that most people who end up with a lot of accounts, they don't have excess cash. So it becomes a bit difficult. Someone needs the injection to start behaving in a different manner. But the best way will be to save for
directly
the accounts and start by closing one account at a time, and you take the money that you are paying towards that account and you start paying into the other account. Now you're doubling your installment, and therefore you will finish
quicker,
and you stop obviously taking in cash.
Buy them cash. Which takes me to a saying that you always used to say, that if you don't have money for it, then don't buy it. Because then you end up paying for things that you've worn out.
You don't even remember. The clothing account, for me, it doesn't matter whether it's a clothing account or it's a furniture account. Just don't have accounts. You know, because I really believe that the account system was made as part of Ukcindezela abantu abamnyama. Because honestly, You pay for something that's worn out. You pay for
double
something
the amount.
that you don't even remember. So you would rather save for something. And if you don't have, you don't have. Use garden chairs if you can't afford couches.
Yeah. Just
until such time that you can afford the minimum and go for minimum. It's your life at the end of the day, so you need to be financially wise.
Okay. And then, do you remember your first rainy day? You know, they always say you must save for rainy days. Is there a time where either you experienced the rainy day and you're like, cool, I've got my savings, or you experienced the rainy day and you're like, where do I start?
I'm trying to think. You know, saving I learned in a difficult way because I had responsibilities. I had to have a home. I had to have a car at some point. So I was for I think for the first 5 years of my career, I didn't really have savings. You know, I mastered this whole thing after
First how many years?
First 5 years.
Jeez,
in my career, I didn't have I didn't have
make those
savings.
mistakes.
Yes, I didn't have savings. I learned along the way. I think on my second year I bought a house. On my second year working, I bought a house. And I had to maintain a house, you know, because buying a house is not just about a bond and so forth. But let's get back to the question. So when I started having rainy days, can I just say my rainy days happened when I had money, you know, when I had savings? I do not recall the rainy days that came before that, you know, when I was financially unfit. But I will also say, because I know our habits. Usually when people get rainy days, they go for loans. And that for me also is a no-no. Whether by a loan shark, whether by the bank. Of course, when you compare the two, the bank is much better than the loan shark because of the interest rates and so forth. If you are really pushed into that corner and you don't have savings, then you'd rather go to the bank than to go to a loan shark. But if you've got an asset, if you've bought a house, then you would rather revolve your money in your bond account. Or, as I've said, you would rather use a credit card because it's something that when you have a lot of money, you can close off. Yeah, you can close off at any time, and you can reuse the money if push comes to shove. So,
which is important, right? To if you can close your credit cards, it would be good. Have a credit card at a positive balance, not close. Have a credit card at a positive balance, and basically close all your small account, debts. Yeah. So,
but try not have debts in the first place. You have a budget. Your budget tells you whether you are earning 20,000 and your monthly expenses currently are sitting at 15,000. So you can't just go and buy a car for 8,000. You can't afford it. So your budget will always tell you what you can allow. So that's even when you are shopping for a car, you shop for a car that you can afford. Exactly. And you're not only looking at the car, you're looking at the insurance, you're looking at the petrol, and you're looking at, so
you're maintaining that car.
So if you don't even have a budget, how do you know what car to shop for? Because you do not shop a car based on what you're earning. Hey, you shop a car based on what you have available. You can always, these systems that they use, they always pre-qualify you for more than you can afford. At the end of the day, you need to eat. You need to have a roof over your head, and you need petrol, and you need insurance, and you need all of those things. So do a budget.
Okay. What I want to ask next is, why did you decide to buy a house first?
Okay.
What was your order of priorities there?
When I started, basically, I started reading. I think I said this in the last time we had a session. I started reading a lot, about things that you don't know. And then there's always this say car is an expense and a house is an investment.
Yes.
So I thought to myself, of course I need a car to move from point A to point B. But at this rate, I think I need to pay my own bond first. Firstly, I was uncomfortable with paying someone else's bond because if you are renting, you are paying someone else's bond. So if you can afford a rent, you probably would afford a bond around the same
price.
Amount. You know, I'm not saying like
Not
for
exactly.
like, not exactly, but around the same amount. So I was just thinking this person will just buy this place and I'll be sitting here and I'll be paying for years, paying for their bond, you know, so I'm not getting anything back. But if I just buy a house there, because it was an investment, then it was easier for me to go for the house. And then what I thought as well, I had other alternatives. Like you guys got Taxify, Ubers, and all those things now. I also had other alternatives. If I needed to go somewhere, and then I knew that I could use a meter taxi. That time I used to use meter taxis. And then for work purposes, I used to do a lift club.
Oh.
Yeah, lift club. So you make alternatives and you prioritize. So I thought, why not? I will still advise that. If anyone wants to get in it, I know in Joburg sometimes it's very difficult to move around without a car. But
that's why I bought a car first. No, but
Uber,
I get you,
fine.
right? But when I calculated the amount of money that I would be using to get to work, using Ubers or whatever the case may be, I was just
buying a house first is a good investment
True.
for you. Going to the future.
What would you say is a good ratio salary versus expenses?
Okay. To be honest with you, I've never worked on a ratio. But if I have to think it off now and be realistic about it, I think if you are sitting at a 75-25, like if you're spending 75% on your living expenses, you're there. You know, it's not too bad because you can play around with the 25%, get your 10% saving, get the other 15%, you know, to do whatever special things that you need to save up for and so forth. So I think 75, it's not easily attainable, but if you start practicing it early, when you have less expenses, you can maintain it. It becomes difficult when it just
you have to
falls
rectify.
Down. Yes, but if you start while you still have a smaller salary, as you earn more,
you can carry the practice. Or the principle through.
Yes. But it's all, I will say this again, it all starts with budget.
Because then you are able to. So what do you do? Do you go back to your budget every month?
Yes.
What? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason why is because each month might have its unusual needs as well.
Okay.
So before your money comes into the bank, you go and check your budget for the month.
Okay.
For that month. Before, not when the money is there, before it comes there, you know how much you earn, you know what your expenses. So you go and check, and you check for special things that you will only be doing this month. And you highlight those, and you check for wrong things that you did last month, and you try and avoid them. It's like, it's an ongoing process. It's something that you need to do regularly. Don't do this thing of saying, I know my expenses, they're just gonna go off anyway, so that's my budget.
The debit orders are like,
write it down every month and update it at the end of the month. Before the money comes in, you come back. After the money comes in, you go and update. You've paid this and this and this, so that you have a reality about your finances. They are so important to you. So you need to spend some time with your finances. It's a personal journey. And for you to know where to focus on and how to grow, you need to know what you're working with. So this, and also people, they say, no, I do budgets. And all they do is to do the budgets. They don't follow the budgets. So you must follow the budget for you. And the only way you know whether you're following the budget is that after your money comes in and the debit orders go and you pay whatever you do, transfers, you come back and you sit with your budget. You planned to pay these people 2,000. How much did you eventually pay them? 1,500. You planned to transfer this amount. How much did you eventually transfer? That will give you a hard reality of what's going on in your finances. Yes, but people say, no, I do budgets. But they never implement the budget. So you audit yourself. No one is going to come and audit your budget but yourself.
Okay, my final question. What was your biggest financial, either lesson, maybe it could have come from your biggest financial, I think I remember something. I remember the one time you invested money into this
Go there.
whatever it was, and
Yeah.
your money just.
I was actually thinking which one to pick, you know, because there's just so many lessons that I've had over the years.
Okay, maybe share two.
From buying a house at a very young age, that was the most I've learned from that, and I've never stayed in a rented place ever since then. So remember I said I bought a house in my second year of working, and I've always moved from buying a house to buying a house, buying a house to buying a house.
Did these benefit you when you sold your first house? Did you gain from
Yes. With the house you never go wrong, especially in a good area, you know. But there are times when it's not good to sell. But if all is well with the economy, you should really get something back that makes it easier for you.
So we're saying right now wouldn't be a good time to sell.
Right now is the best place
time to buy.
Yeah, it's the best time to buy. So that's one financial lesson. And then the one that you spoke about obviously was an investment which didn't go well.
Didn't pick up.
But what I also learned was that you do your research, and sometimes these guys are so good, you know. You do your research as much as you can, but what's important is that you follow your instincts. As much as I lost money, I could have lost more. You know, there was a possibility of me doubling the investment. But at the last minute, my heart said, no. Just start with this and see how it goes before you put more, you know. So, yes.
That was a hard lesson.
That was a hard lesson.
Yeah.
But having said that, I also want to add that another lesson that I've learned, it is the importance of budgeting, and sticking to your budget, and then lastly, saving. You just gotta save. You know, the one thing that I'll tell you is that when it's time to draw from your savings and do something, it's also painful. You know, you feel like, at the end of the day, why did you save?
Yeah,
you save to make sure that you haven't. Yes, but you will feel the pain when it's time to withdraw your savings. But you try and make sure that when you have to go into your savings, you don't really have to start from fresh unless the circumstance really forces, because there are some circumstances that will force for that. Try and maintain at least 6 months' salary into your savings. At least.
Girl!
Yes. You must be able to at least survive for 6 months without an income. Yeah. So what
Especially
I'm saying,
for times like these.
So what I'm saying basically is that you know your expenses, you know the musts, you know the nice to have. So there's a must. So let's talk about the must. The must at least
6 months.
6 months. Once you get there, then you know that you have mastered the savings.
I'm far from that.
But you can get there.
Same. Okay, cool. Yeah. Just this tip that I got from someone, or I read somewhere, that you have an account where all your debit orders go out, have an account or a card for entertainment. So separate your money. They called it the container or the Tupperware system or whatever. And then you withdraw from those certain accounts accordingly. So if I was going out, I would go and check in my entertainment account if I have the money to go out. Because sometimes you get confused by this money that is in your account.
I would say is a budget comes with discipline. So in other words, if you were doing your budget, you know that this month I have 1,500 for entertainment. So when you go out, you know that last week I spent 700, so I basically have 800 rand left. So it comes with discipline.
But that calls for you going back to your budget to go.
Remember, this is exactly what I said to you. I said to you, your budget is not something that you visit. It's not a destination. It's part of your life. It's not something that you go to, that you plan, I'm going to do my budget after 6 months. No. The week before you get paid, you look at it the week after you've got paid, and then you look at it during the month, and then you look at it before you get paid again.
So before you make financial decisions.
So if you are disciplined, you won't need compartments. But if you are someone That for me is just you making your life easier. But for me, also, I would not be comfortable with that because each account draws its own fees.
True.
So now you're paying fees for the entertainment account, you're paying fees for your debit orders account, you're paying fees for your transfer. No, you just need to be disciplined. You do your budget, you update your budget. You know you have spent money, you say in your entertainment, and therefore you have this much. If you have exceeded your budget, you go and look at other items, what you need to cut down to ensure that you don't mess up your budget. But if you don't take that responsibility of keep going back into your budget, then of course you're gonna end up having compartments, and you're gonna call fees upon yourself, and you're gonna end up paying even more. You know, because the fact that you've got an entertainment account, it doesn't mean that once you are wherever you guys go, you will not end up using the other card just for today. So for
but you leave it at home.
So for
control.
Living it at home these days doesn't work. It used to work. You've got your phone. You can transfer money from this account to that account. So for me, it all revolves around discipline.
Yeah, true.
Doing a budget, going back to your budget, looking at it and implementing it in your life regularly until you get used. I think I look at my budget in a month 3 or 4 times.
Cool.
In a month.
You do.
Yeah. I mean, it's my money, I must manage it. Otherwise, I must hire someone to manage my money. You know, even your account, these days, everything is on the phone. If you are not good with spreadsheet, find an app. You guys can actually create a budget.
Yeah, so that it's there already. So those are the tips that I was going to share. I was going to suggest two things to close off this chat. Thank you, Miguel, for being the lovely woman that you are and sharing these tips with us. But yeah, I was going to suggest regularly checking your statements. Either you print them and sit with a highlighter and highlight certain spendings with the same color, your debit orders with the same color, so that you just sort of get an understanding of what your budget looks like, your financial ins and outs mean to you. And if that's too much admin for you, there's an app. I know I'm advertising, but there's an app called 22/7. You can download that, and that, I don't know how safe it is, but it's worked for me. It helps and it categorizes all your spendings and all the money that goes off in a certain account of yours. You can choose what card to link, and then it groups everything. It shows you, okay, you've spent this much at shopping, you've spent this much doing this, you've spent this much doing that. So it sort of gives you a summary of how you're spending your money, and it's brilliant. Yes, it's hard when you get to see how you play with your money and how you spend your money unnecessarily, but it's reality, and it helps you better your finances.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. Let's engage in the comment section. Maybe share tips that you have on what has worked for you financially, or maybe ask questions. I'll give them to the lady to answer. I'll give them to my mom to answer. And let's chat about money pains and so forth. And yeah, guys, please do like the video, do share it with your friends, subscribe, please subscribe. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Come here. Thank you.